Greetings all, and welcome to Esoteric Babble. Today's babbling is going to tackle the topic, why does a meditation practice fail? And I'm going to spare you having to wait through the entire video. I'm just going to spoil it right now and say that the only reason a meditation practice fails is because we stop doing it. That's it. That's the only reason a meditation practice can fail. Now, you might ask the following question then. Why would we stop a meditation practice? And I think that comes down to expectations. And another way to say that is we don't feel we're getting any results from our meditation practice. So to give an example, when I first got into meditation, I was in my early 20s, Cincinnati, Ohio, early 90s. I got interested in Zen meditation, and what I knew about that came from some books. There weren't that many books around, certainly compared to now. There weren't any Zen Buddhists that I knew. There was once a Zen Buddhist monk from Japan who came and gave a short lecture, but my knowledge was very scant. So I would sit and meditate, and I found it to be the most difficult thing. And I did give it up after a while. I did come back to it in my 30s, and I kept in touch with the practice. And then I sort of had a change in outlook about 6 years ago that led me into a deeper, better practice. So here's what I would say. And I'm going to approach this from a Buddhist point of view, and I would say more of a traditional Buddhist understanding of meditation. And that is, meditation fits into an overall approach to life. I think one issue that comes up with meditation is sometimes it's billed as its own thing, and that's all you have to do. And that is certainly not the case in Buddhism. You may or may not be aware that Buddhism really has these three broad practices: virtue, samadhi, or meditation, and wisdom, or sila, samadhi, and panya. And actually, again, this was something that I had no idea about until fairly recently, in a way. Really, the whole idea of Buddhism is to develop wisdom, because it's wisdom alone that can overcome ignorance. And it's ignorance that's the first, what would we say, factor of dependent arising. It's ignorance that keeps us tied to birth and death, to choosing birth and death over liberation. So our practice of virtue and meditation is to develop a way that we can see clearly, and which will allow us to develop real wisdom. It's not the kind of wisdom that can come simply from reading, although obviously reading is a part of it. So I think that's one example of how meditation can fail, is if we think that meditation alone is going to somehow cause enlightenment without any other changes to our life, we might be in for a surprise. But it's also possible that meditation has benefits, but that we're being too critical about the practice itself. So the other thing that I would say is, very often we sit down, and like I said, when I was in my 20s, my mind would just go on, and I thought, well, I'm not getting anywhere. But if you talk to a lot of experienced meditators and people who actually teach meditation, talk to Buddhist monks, etc., they'll tell you that that isn't something to be upset about. That's a chance. We're actually just getting to understand the nature of our mind. There's no failure in the mind just going on, especially if we just notice it and keep bringing ourselves back to the present. And so that's another reason that meditation might fail, is because we're being critical about something, or we might have an unrealistic expectation that we can sit down and our minds will just be absolutely clear and not turbulent. I don't think that's extremely realistic even after you've practiced meditation for years. It will become calmer, but there are still situations in your life when it's going to be hard to sit down and meditate and not feel anxious. Another thing about meditation is that it's a way of preparing us for the rest of our life when we're not sitting. So it's good. That's one reason practicing walking meditation is good, because it's sort of a bridge between doing your sort of normal daily routine or engaging in your daily activities and the sitting practice. If you're in your car and you're driving, we can try to not only be mindful, but be calm. And so that leads me just to the last thing. I'm really trying to keep this video short. And that is, there are different types of meditation, even within the Buddhist tradition, and whatever tradition you're in, there are probably many different practices of meditation. You can practice meditation to calm the body, and that is not a bad one. Certainly, I think in our modern life, there's so many pressures that it's not a bad idea to have some amount of calming meditation at work, maybe all the time. Because, in this day and age, we have our cell phones with us all the time, and there's always kind of pressure to be connected. So it's not a bad idea to develop this kind of calming meditation. There's also, of course, mindfulness, which is to be present. And that's something, of course, that originated with the Buddha. And that we can be present to our breathing. We can be present to our feelings, or what is going on around us. There's a lot of different ways we could understand being mindful. And of course, there's also samadhi, understood more in a technical sense of like concentration, which probably does overlap with mindfulness to a certain extent, like keeping your attention trained on some kind of object. Could be a flame, it could be a colored disc, there's lots of different things. And of course, there's also in Buddhism, there are the jhanas, these absorptions, they're sometimes called, where you experience certain kinds of feelings, I would say, just roughly, and you might look into jhanic practice if you're not aware of it. So really, all this video is trying to do is to say, actually, you can't fail unless you give up, and you can always start. We can always start our meditation practice again, but don't think that you have to sit down and that your mind has to clear immediately. Every time we sit, that is a success, and it is really going to help us. I think for me, I can't actually, I obviously can't speak for anyone. I can barely speak for myself, but I can say that when I started taking meditation very seriously, and I started to come at it from this, not such a narrow focus of I need to gain enlightenment, but that I want to develop virtue in my life. I want to develop metta. That's another one that's a really good meditation, is to develop loving kindness. That should not be, I kind of flew past that one, but that's probably number one that could help our world today and help us. These practices all work together. So again, and I caused myself to derail there, but the idea is that we need to think about how meditation integrates into our whole life. And really, we're trying to overhaul our entire life and to make our lives better. If we don't change anything in our lives, we can't really move towards greater happiness and less suffering and to true liberation. So I would really love to hear what people have to say on this. I know everyone's experience in meditation is very different. But so I'd love to hear about the differences and the similarities and your background. And yes, any thoughts, any concerns, anything at all you have to say regarding that. And on that note, peace, everyone.